Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Defender. Great to be with everybody again. Glad you're here. Glad we're back with you. I apologize for a little bit of the delay with getting some new content or some fresh content out. Real life and real work got in the way, so I apologize for that. But back with you, and I think we've got a really interesting and exciting firearm to talk about today. Usual admin notes. Thanks again for all the views. Views just continue to escalate and grow, I should say, every week. Same with our subscribers. Thank you for that. Of course, we still need more. Like I've always said, that we can't really move the channel forward without subscribers. So really appreciate that. Please continue to subscribe if you like the content. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, etc. And of course, we've got some comments about the face blur, so let's go ahead and cover that off again. Simply because of my day job, and I just want to be able to express my content and my views on my channel. So with that out of the way, the firearm that we want to talk about today is going to be and this is a clear and safe firearm, by the way. This is going to be a Model 60 Chief Special Ladysmith. So this is going to get pretty interesting because this particular model and firearm start to cover off some really interesting topics and points for Smith & Wesson, probably the largest one being that in 1965 when they introduced this firearm, it's the first stainless steel firearm made, I believe, ever, and certainly by Smith & Wesson, and as a revolver. So it's definitely a groundbreaking firearm in that regard. And then in 1989, they bring the Ladysmith nomenclature or marketing term, whatever you want to call it, back into this firearm. And again, what we're doing is we're building off this snub nose series that I've been doing lately. And if you haven't seen some of those videos, please check them out. The original Chief Special or Model 36 that I have, the 40-1 Centennial, the 38 Airweight, Model 38 Airweight. So if you haven't seen some of those, please check them out. Hopefully there's some good content and information in there for you. But this Model 60 is building directly off of the original Chief Special or Model 36. So of course, where that was a blued gun in steel, this is going to be an all stainless steel firearm. And so there's a lot of really neat points to talk about this firearm, and I hope you guys enjoy the video and get something out of it. So, and again, in kind of this recent method to try to keep the intro a little shorter, so we can get into the deep dive. And so let's go ahead and do that. Let's do a deep dive on this Smith & Wesson Model 60 Chief Special Ladysmith for you guys. So as I just introduced, we're talking about the Smith & Wesson Model 60 Chief Special Ladysmith today. And as I alluded to in the intro, it's a very, very interesting firearm for a number of reasons. Probably the biggest, the 800-pound gorilla in the room, is the fact that when the Model 60 was introduced by Smith & Wesson in 1965, it was the first ever regular production, I guess is the correct term, or production firearm made of stainless steel. And of course, at that time, in 65, it was a revolver. And so that's very, groundbreaking, another great point to Smith & Wesson history, another great tip of the hat to what Smith & Wesson was doing with engineering and listening to customers and bringing more product and more models and variations to the second A community. Primarily a lot of law enforcement, right? I mean, we talk a lot about where we're at today with what's required for concealed carry and Second Amendment and civilians, but we can't really lose sight of the fact that in these Smith & Wesson's first 100 years or so, a large portion of what they are doing and catering to is to the law enforcement community. So a lot of input from those folks into the Smith & Wesson product line, and that's another great kind of link back here to where does this begin. And as I alluded to in the intro, it really starts once again with the Chief Special. And of course, we've got a clear and safe firearm there. So, and again, if you haven't seen this video, check it out. But this is where it all starts for Smith & Wesson in 1950 with the Chief Special and the J-frame 5-shot 38 revolver as a snub nose. So, yeah, that's our jumping off point again. And we fast forward from 1950 to 1965, and Smith & Wesson introduces this firearm in stainless steel, as I just mentioned. It's still a 5-shot J-frame. It still has all of really the same attributes and function and engineering capability as its older brother, the Model 36, but it's a completely stainless steel firearm. And it's really a beautiful firearm, and the workmanship is amazing, and how it shoots is amazing. And I'll get into that as I keep kind of working down the product platform. But some other interesting points, as we kind of get to the 60, the model itself and this stainless steel. But the other part about this particular firearm is it's a Ladysmith, and I'll try to get that up into the camera for you, and we'll talk about that, I think, as a point number 2. But again, going back to what we have here, and just to give you a little bit of data on the Model 60 itself. Brought out in 1965, still a 5-shot J-frame, and it's made to today. It's made to current configuration, or made to date, as I understand it. And they were basically built from a Model 60 to a Model 60-18, believe it or not. So again, you can see the interest level of this firearm and the number of variations that Smith & Wesson did to the firearm, going from a Model 60 all the way to a Model 60-18. And this particular model is a 60-3, and that's noted there on the inside of the frame. And we know that the Model 60-3 was introduced in 1988. However, the Ladysmith was introduced in 1989, and we know that the Model 60-4 was introduced in 1990. So we can pretty clearly identify this as a 1988, either very late 1988, marked as a 60-3, or most likely a 1989, as it's the Ladysmith, and it's not a 60-4. So that's kind of what this firearm is from a manufacturing date. And if we do our usual walk around, and I'll get to a variety of different points here. And of course, by 1965, they are using model numbers, right? Smith & Wesson starts using model numbers in 1957. So by 1965, this is a Model 60. The Chief Special name is still attached to it. Most people still use the Chief Special name too. I like it. We've talked about that in other videos, kind of how cool Smith & Wesson did things, and how they named firearms before they ever got to a model number system, whether it's a Combat Magnum or a Chief Special or what have you. They don't actually start using model numbers till 1957. But at any rate, again, Model 60. And so if we kind of take our usual walk around this pistol, again, you see just a lot of similarities, obviously, to the Model 36 and steel Chief Special, because it's really the same firearm in stainless steel. Now, the Ladysmith is going to change a little bit of that, and we'll talk about that. But if we just take a quick walk around, we still have a 2-inch barrel. You'll notice it's not pinned at this point. So by the time we get to 1988, 1989, we don't have a pinned barrel. It's, of course, a 5-shot 38 Special. It is a pre-lock. You'll notice there is no lock on the frame. So it's a pre-lock version. We have the most current style cylinder release, this cupped or semicircle cylinder release. We have traditional Smith & Wesson trademark stamp on the left side. We still have on this era, this 89, 88 era, we still have a hammer nose, and we still have forged parts. We don't have MIM parts. We have this side is roll stamped or stamped with Smith & Wesson, as we traditionally see. And I'll see if we can get that to focus there so you can see that. I'm going to come back to the stocks in a minute. On this side, we have roll stamped in the barrel, which again is very typical. We have 38 Smith & Wesson Special. This one doesn't have the term cartridge on it. And let's see if we can get that to focus there. Yep. And of course, on this side of the frame, we have Lady Smith etched into the frame, and then our traditional Smith & Wesson information there. Now the stocks are interesting on this particular firearm for a number of reasons. First of all, I bought the firearm with, it's used, and it had just kind of a rubber boot grip. So someone had taken off the original smooth rosewood round butt grips. So effectively, the 60 Lady Smith, I should say, the Lady Smith came with a smooth rosewood round butt stock, very, very similar to basically what would have been on the 36, if you could envision that. It was a little bit wider, a little bit longer, but had this kind of very, very nice elongated and very smooth rosewood. Beautiful grips. Could not locate anything, could not find an original pair. Not sure I could afford original pair. And unfortunately, somebody took them off the original firearm, which I'm learning was more and more common. It's hard to understand that, in this current state, that someone have taken off beautiful wood grips, but it was fairly common, as I understand it, back in the day, to remove Smith & Wesson wood stocks, I should say, and change that into maybe a rubber grip or something else. So what I decided I would do, and I kind of went back and forth on this a little bit. I really was thinking about an Altamont grip. I was thinking about some other aftermarket grips to see if I could, or stocks, if I could find a stock that was similar to this Lady Smith, because it is really a pretty stock. If you can see it, find a picture of it, or maybe I'll try to inlay one. So what I decided to do is kind of meet in the middle. I decided to go with these Pacmar smooth rosewood, kind of oversized combat grips. And I will tell you, I absolutely love them. Pacmar, once again, doesn't disappoint. I should state, Pacmar did not send me these grips. I bought them myself. I made that decision myself to put them on and see what I thought about this. I wanted to try to, on one hand, hark back to the original smooth rosewood, but as I've commented in some other videos, I struggle a little bit with the small round butt magma grips that Smith & Wesson normally, or stocks that normally, they go on the firearm. So I kind of decided I would try to meet in the middle, I guess, if you will, and I'm not disappointed with it at all. They're very, very nice. I sometimes hesitate a little bit with smooth stocks just because I just tend to like making sure I have a very, very good purchase on the firearm and a grip. I have smaller to medium-sized hands, so sometimes things move around on me a little bit, but I just did not find that with these stocks. So, and they're just really, really pretty, well-made, fit well. I just can't speak highly enough of these Pacmar grips. Just their stocks, just absolutely love them. So that's kind of the story on the stocks and why it doesn't have the original and why it has these. I would love to hear some comments from you guys on some other stocks that you've tried. I have had some comments about Altamont grips and people like them. I know they make a very, very good product. And of course, it's, if my understanding is correct, it's pretty much the OEM supply to Smith & Wesson today for their revolvers, for the wood stocks. So really, really neat there. So that kind of rounds out what the Model 60 was and is. And again, its claim to fame really is the first stainless steel firearm. And of course, that provided all kinds of positive capability, if you will, from a corrosion resistance, stronger finish, etc. And again, if you kind of look through the different variations, it's a lot of police departments chose the Model 60 due to the stainless steel material of construction. I should state the sights are traditional J-frame Smith & Wesson sights, and so that's just very, very traditional. Again, no change there from the traditional Model 36 Chief Special. I'm just noticing here as I'm doing this video with you folks, I've got a new mat here, and I've just noticed that the camera's, I think, fighting a little bit with focusing between what it's seeing on the mat and what it is on the firearm. So I try to do these videos in one take, so don't always double check all this stuff beforehand. So, but let's go ahead and jump into the Ladysmith part. So Smith & Wesson, let's take a step back, right? The Ladysmith is a very interesting part of Smith & Wesson history as well. It goes all the way back to 1902 when Smith & Wesson introduced a hand ejector in .22 long caliber on an M frame, M as in Mary or Michael. And that's a very, very small framed firearm. I brought my regulation police out with an I frame, and if my memory serves me correctly, the M frame was even smaller. So that was a product that Smith & Wesson was marketing back at the turn of the century, the 1902, to female shooters, and came out with a very small 22 caliber revolver termed Ladysmith. And I don't know all the history on the Ladysmith. I know it's used in several times over through the history of Smith & Wesson, but it finds its way on this particular firearm here in this Model 60 in 1989. And the part about the Ladysmith here, beyond the obvious that it was marketed towards female shooters and always has been, but the interesting part about that are some of the features that came along with the Ladysmith Model 60 Chief Special, and I'll try to run those down briefly, but just so you know it. So the original smooth rosewood stock that I had mentioned was a smaller stock, but it was a little bit longer, as I understand it. And again, the thought process was for a smaller hand person. Again, I've changed that out to these, but they were already thinking about the stock and the grip and how that person would hold on to the firearm. The other thing that they did was the trigger. The trigger is actually a smooth trigger. If we look at our Model 36, this one actually has a serrated trigger, so you can see there. I guess the camera's going to focus on that one for us. The Ladysmith is a very smooth trigger. Very, very nice, actually. And I think there's actually a little beveling on the edge there, if I can see that, if I'm picking that up correctly. Very, very nice feel to this trigger. Very nice touch. The other thing with the trigger is that they had lightened up the trigger. And I dry fired both of these before the video, and I think I do detect a slightly lighter trigger. It certainly seems smoother to me, but that can have a lot to do with the age of firearms and how often they've been shot and how the action is kind of worn in, etc. So that one's a little subjective, but the trigger itself was a little lighter, and I'll make a comment on how I thought this firearm shot. So that's a very nice touch. And then the finish. The finish, as you can tell, I hope that's coming up here. It's a beautiful, I almost want to call satin or brushed. I think it was termed satin stainless, opposed to more of a shiny stainless. But whatever this finish is, the satin or brushed stainless it's just absolutely gorgeous. I actually don't know how well it would take to polishing. I've got a few little mars on the finish, and I was thinking of maybe trying to polish it, but I don't know. Maybe again here we could get some comments from you folks, how well it would take to fritz polish or something like that. It was so beautiful that I was really kind of cautious with what I was going to do with it, and I hadn't really had a chance to talk to some other colleagues and gunsmiths that I know, so I hadn't gotten to that point. But would be great to hear comments from you guys. So it had this very, very nice finish, and I will say a much stronger finish than, let's say, the satin on like a third gen semi-auto, right? With a 5903, particularly if you're familiar with that firearm, it had a stainless steel slide with this satin finish underneath it. I think the 6906, I think, had it as well. Those were not durable satin finishes. This, on the other hand, appears to be very durable, and from what I've seen and read, so very, very cool with the finish. So how did the firearm shoot? It was phenomenal. It really took me away, and I don't know exactly where that comes from. I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a combination of the action on the trigger, how Smith and Wesson shortened this, they lightened it is the term, and along with this smooth trigger, I'm sure the stocks that I put on here certainly helped, as I know how my hand is and size and what kind of works and what doesn't work. The other thing that I noticed, and it kind of surprised me a little bit, my eyes were able to pick up the stainless um, sight picture, sight alignment better than on a blued gun. And I'm a sucker for blued Smith and Wessons. I mean, I just absolutely love them. This one is a nice shape too. I'm not sure I really got the polished up there, but when you get this midnight blue Smith and Wesson bluing, it's just gorgeous, and I'm a sucker for it, especially with original wood stocks next to it. But so that's kind of where my eyes and my interests go. But I have to say, this firearm was an absolute pleasure to shoot. I shot it extremely well, and if it probably had a bobbed hammer, this would be the J frame that I would carry. It was just that nice. I may still carry it, but I'm very cognizant of the hammer. And I've tried it both ways with like the air weight, the completely or shrouded hammer, or the Centennial that's the hammer is completely enclosed, then with the exposed hammer in a pocket carry, and it just will catch a majority of the time as you're trying to get the firearm out of your pocket. So um, but other than that, this was just a dream to shoot. I'd never shot one before. I'd never owned one before. It just totally blew me away. I actually just cannot recommend it more highly. In fact, I think if you're looking for a J frame um, snub nose Smith and Wesson stainless steel Lady Smith, or the Model 60, is just it was just phenomenal. I also don't know if it's material of construction. I have found over the years and with different models that and I can't really put my finger on it, it does seem like the stainless steel guns shoot better. I don't know if that's just all the material of construction are the same and the gun just works kind of holistically, or if it's just a misperception on my side, kind of an abstract feeling that I'm getting. But the gun was just amazing. Absolutely loved it. Cannot recommend it more highly if you're looking for a snub nose 5-shot Smith and Wesson. 10 out of 10, quite frankly. Was kind of some of the other interesting things. The other interesting that I thought you guys might like to know is that the Ladysmiths came with their own box. It came with basically a specialized box. It was this smaller box in this color, this maroon color. It had this kind of funny imprint on it. And at times it almost looks like scratches, but it is not. So not the traditional blue box, not a cardboard box. It came like this for a period of time in '89. I don't know how long. I think maybe to the mid '90s, and then I think it went to a soft case. So the Ladysmiths only came this way for a period of time. And what did you get in it, or what did it look like? You received your firearm in this case, and you received your traditional paperwork from Smith & Wesson. There's actually, I guess it's a black and white picture, so sorry for that, but there you can kind of see the original smooth rosewood grip that would have come with that. Very, very similar to a traditional 36, but I think it did have a slight shape variance to it. So you would have gotten your multi-page manual. The firearm would have been there, of course. I didn't even check now that I've changed the grip to see if mine will fit in there. Maybe. And you received 3 cleaning tools, if you will: your rod, your soft, and your brush. And as far as I know, that was a complete kit. And this box did not come with this firearm, but I did some research, located one, and basically tried to put the box, kind of the original, the kit back together again. And of course, it's engraved Ladysmith right there as well. So that was pretty neat. Thought that was something you guys might like to see. They're not around all the time. Sometimes they're a little harder to locate. And this one was in really nice shape, as was the firearm, I should say. I commented a little bit that the firearm had a few marks on it here and there, but this was another one that I happened to kind of just stumble into in a shop that I've gone to for more than a decade, and he had it in there, and just a great price, actually. So I was really fortunate to pick that up. And I thought it was really neat. The timing of it was great because we're doing this snub nose review or series for Smith & Wesson firearms. So it fit right into that. And again, we're kind of trying to do this chronological. So this was the next one in the lineup. I think I've got my timeline and my calendar right. 65 was the next firearm in the series of the firearms that we have our hands on to bring it to you guys. So I think that was all I really wanted to mention to you guys about it. And of course, I'll double check and add anything else into the video if we've got an error or if I missed something. But again, I think my takeaway is just another amazing Smith & Wesson revolver. The action, the materials, everything just blew me away. Absolutely loved shooting it. And so, yeah, I hope you guys liked the video. Hope you found it interesting. Like I said, please hit us with more comments. Please subscribe, and we'll see you all again next time on the Daily Defender.